Hello friends! Oh my god. I'm going to be so honest. I am in such a horrible mood and I am feeling like I just need to chat. And well, I was thinking that this is going to be like a good informal video. I just don't think I have it in me. The original video that I was planning on doing was changing your environment when you can't leave it. And right now, quite honestly, the stuff I'm struggling with does not have to do with environment. It has to do with external things, and there's a part of me that really wants to control a lot of my life that I don't have control over. And there's some things in life that you just kind of have to go through the wonkiness and figure it out as you go. And I'm really hot, so I'm gonna open a freaking window. But yeah, I just feel like, actually maybe this will be a good time to talk about changing the environment when you can't leave it, because honestly, changing your environment when you can't leave it and you're stuck is more so about finding things that you can control than it is really changing anything around you. Because the reality is sometimes you're in an environment that you cannot simply change. You can't change the external factors. All you can do is work on your internal world and what you have going on inside of you when you have different interactions and different things going on. So when I say changing your environment, the two things that I feel more equipped to talk about are family, housing situations, and work environments. Because the reality of it is sometimes people do not have money to move out of a family home that they so much dislike, and that is a sad reality for some people. And maybe it's not even sad, it's just like, honestly, the reality is that you still have a roof over your head, and that's such a beautiful blessing. But it's like sometimes the environment or the people or even the living situation or the kind of housing that you're in is not ideal. And I don't know, growing up I've always had this, you could have it worse mentality, and there's always someone that is poorer than you, there's always someone that has less than you, so be grateful for what you do have. And while I do believe that 100% it is important to have gratitude within your everyday life, it's also important to realize that there is more and that there can be more, and that because it could be worse doesn't mean I'm at my best. And honestly, keeping that mindset and knowing that there's room for improvement and knowing that in this world you can have more than what you have had, I think that really pushed me to get out of environments that simply were not working for me. And that I'm not really going to say toxic, because possibly toxic, but for me it's hard to say toxic because I think that comes with intentionality, but I don't like intentional actions, and I don't think that what was going on in my home was intentional. Whether or not it was toxic or not, it was not a situation I wanted to be in, and it was not an environment that I was able to thrive in. And I think that's really what you need to go base off of. Can you improve yourself in this environment? And if not, finding the ways that you can figure out how to improve what you have going on. For me personally, when I was living in a household that I absolutely hated, a big thing was my car. And even before I had my car, even starting, if you have a car, that is such a fucking blessing. Like, having my car completely changed my world when I hated my house, because it all of a sudden gave me the opportunity to go anywhere. All of a sudden I was eating at restaurants and taking a book or taking a journal, and I'm sitting at this restaurant and I'm able to find places to recenter myself. Or I would go to a park and I would just go on a walk, or I don't know, I got into climbing trees again, or I would just sit. Oh my god, I loved going to a lake and just sitting at the lake. And that, for me, water has always been my connecting piece with the earth. Like, I just feel so at peace, so at home when I'm able to go in a body of water, ocean, lake, river. I just love swimming. So finding how you connect with nature, I think nature is a big aspect for me that helped me reconnect with my body when I felt like everything was out of whack. And I'm actually really disappointed in myself today because I wish I went outside and it was nice outside, and I live in Minnesota and the weather is not always nice outside. I took a 5-minute run I had like 10 minutes before class. I just got home from work and I literally came upstairs, set all my shit down from work, put on my tennis shoes, and ran around the block to clear my head. For me, running also really helps. Like, it helps me clear everything that is going on in my head, and I don't know, that feeling of being out of breath afterwards is just like I can focus on something else for like a little bit, get out of my head and into my body. And I think that's important too when you're in an environment that you can't control. Getting out of your head and getting into your body and actually feeling what you have going on is going to help you 100%, because staying in your head all the time is its own kind of hell. That is its own struggle, honestly. And I don't know, sometimes when you're in a toxic environment though, you don't want to get out of your head. You don't want to be there physically because the physical things you have around you are just so bad that you would rather just isolate. And I feel that 100%. So for me, my bedroom was a big thing. I made my bedroom my sanctuary. I put up things I loved. I made space for things I loved. I loved every aspect of that room. Honestly, I went back to my childhood home for Thanksgiving and I was looking at my room and I'm just like, they put so much stuff in there, so it's like not even my room anymore, but everything is still on the walls and I just feel like, wow, I really did this for myself when I was younger and I really made this a space for me, and I absolutely love that I did that for myself. So I think controlling what you can control, figuring out what you can control and controlling those aspects is going to be the best way that you can survive in a bad environment and give you the energy and the boost to get out of it. That too is, I feel like a lot of people stay in these bad environments because they simply do not have the energy, they simply do not have enough to put into themselves because they're so focused on what their everyday life is. And honestly, when I actually moved out, I ended up moving to Airbnbs a couple months before I found my apartment because I knew that I was in this cycle that was not going to end if I stayed where I was at, because it was just really bad. I'm really not going to get into it, but it was just an environment that I knew I wasn't going to pick myself up together. I was smoking every day, weed. I do not smoke cigarettes. Weed, and eating fast food every day. I wasn't able to save my money. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be anywhere else. I didn't have the energy to put forward anything towards my savings, even though my whole life, like, I had been putting it into my savings. And quite honestly, there was a situation where my savings got stolen from me, and that also put it, like, there's a lot of different aspects that go into stuff, and there's struggles that are going to come up, but knowing what you need to do to make the best out of what you're working with, that's going to help you. So me knowing that I can see myself going further and further in this pit, like, and making a change where I was able to, and honestly that's even a privilege, being able to decide, okay, I'm gonna go on an Airbnb. And honestly, that was the most terrifying thing of my life, because while I wanted to just leave and think everything was going to be fine, I didn't believe it. I didn't know if that was going to be true. And honestly, I feel like since I trusted that there's more and that there's a different life for me, that's what came. And honestly, just no, I really think it was like a universe calling, because like the way I got my apartment was from an old friend that I hadn't talked to in years. It was like a family friend, and he had known the person that owned the apartment, and he helped me, and like, it's just, he reached out on a random day, and I happened to open up and be like, this is what I am struggling with and I need some support. And I don't even think I said I needed some support. I think I just opened up a little bit, and he was able to step forward and help me out with that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, when you believe that there is more will show up and more will come. It will happen. Because, I mean, it just has to. When you think that there's less, like, it gets worse and you get deeper into a hole. But when you're like, no, this has to be the worst that it can be. Sometimes being rock bottom is the thing that is going to raise you up. And nobody likes being at rock bottom, but sometimes rock bottom is where you realize, okay, I deserve more, I need more. And I feel like I was at that point. But this is not about being at rock bottom. This is about figuring out what to do when you realize that you're at rock bottom and you can't change anything. Yeah, the reality is sometimes you can't. So, for your home environment, I would say figure out a way to physically escape. If you do not have a car, find a park and walk to that park. If you don't even have a park nearby, walk in your neighborhood. And if you don't even have like a good neighborhood to walk around, like you're like, I just can't, make friends, build community, and have people that can help you out. Have people that you can genuinely open up to and say, this is what's going on in my life and I need some support. And sometimes that support isn't even money or a place to stay. Sometimes that support is, I need someone to talk to when I'm going through this. I need someone, like a safe space, and trusting into your community. Because for me, a big thing was feeling like I couldn't ask people for help, because growing up I see people in my family and they don't ask people for help. Like everyone is just hyper independent, which yes, I love, and independence is important, but knowing that you have your counterparts that you can seek refuge in is a big important part of getting out of your environment and seeing different points of views. Because sometimes if you stay in your head too long, you're not going to see that there are other things for you. So that in changing what you can in your environment and working on yourself in that environment, journaling, meditating, if you're able to, go to counseling, which is another thing with finding advice or like feeling like there's a safe space. Counseling is a really big thing. Art was a huge thing for me. I love painting. I love drawing. I don't know, I'm a very artistic person, so if art is not your thing, if the gym is your thing, doing workouts, and sometimes you don't have a gym that's accessible, figuring out home workouts that you can do, going on runs around your neighborhood. I did that for a little bit. Yeah, that's the things that you can do within your home environment. And because I know you can try and put up boundaries and whatnot, but I just know that there's some people that are not receptive to boundaries, and when it's a family member or if it's a family situation, you are unable to, especially if there's that authority piece of you having parents that just don't respect what you have to say and they don't believe in boundaries and this different stuff that you do. And so like trying to change other people in your environment would be wonderful, and I would love if I could bring everyone up with me when I'm on my way up, but that's just not the reality of every single situation. So for me to even say that to anyone, I would just feel wrong and just like bad advice, because everyone is on their own timeline, and sometimes people are not receptive, especially if they're in the same environment as you, even if you have like siblings. Because I used to have the misconception that my siblings would get exactly how I am, but my brain and my siblings' brains are not the same, and we look at things differently and we experience things differently. And sometimes when I want to make a change, it doesn't mean that they're going to want to make that same change. It doesn't mean they're going to see a problem in what I see a problem. And sometimes they might see problems, but they might not look at them at the same extent that I do. And I don't know, seeking to be understood by your siblings is a very valid thing, but sometimes it's just not going to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And now if you and your siblings are on the same page and you feel the same way, that is a beautiful thing, but I can't speak from that experience because I don't feel like I've ever been on the same page with them when I was living in that same household. And now we can talk and we have these conversations and we kind of see things eye to eye, but we're grown and it's just from a very different perspective. So if you do have siblings or family members within the household that, feels the same kind of way, that is beautiful, and I would encourage you to talk to them. But if not, I'm not going to try and tell you that you should change how they feel or try and get them to understand you, because the reality is sometimes if you're not understood, you're going to continue being not understood. And being okay with not being understood and knowing that you want different, that I think is the first step, because God, I wish everyone could just see how I felt, understand my brain and the way that I go about things and why I do things and why I look at certain things the way I do, but the reality is they don't, and sometimes they never will, and sometimes you get that clarity afterwards and that's beautiful, but in the moment it's probably not your best thing moving forward. Okay, secondly, work. Staying at work when you really want to fucking quit, which I talked about in my previous video, and so this is for people that literally have bills and or maybe families or maybe actual careers. Right now I'm working at a warehouse, so I wouldn't consider that a career, and I mean I've been there for a couple of years, but I would consider a career more something that you put so much of your efforts into or whatever. But I'm staying at my job because I'm using the benefits for schooling and I know what I'm going to do afterwards. But until that benefit is benefiting me, I have to stay in the environment that I am in. And I do that because I know the pay of my job is sustainable, and I know that me just hopping to another job is not the best decision for me. And while I would love to just start another random job and continue on with my life, like, that's fine. I just don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I'm not saying that what I am furthering my education is going to be end all be all, but I know it's a step closer to finding something that has the ability to make more money than a retail job, service working. I've never really seen anyone in my family have a career except for in education, and I feel like that is more so for the people they're doing it for, and I love that, and I do want to do something that impacts people, honestly, but I just don't think that I can make that compromise for money, you know? And I think it's figuring out how I can make a more amount of money while also helping people around me, and right now I need to focus on the money aspect, and then I feel like I can get into the people aspect, and it's one step at a time. There are different reasons why you might feel inclined to stay at a job that you really don't like, and I would encourage you to figure out different ways to get different jobs or figure out how to change your current situation if it is not appealing to you, if it's not something that is bringing you joy like it used to. But if you have to stay there, what I would recommend is setting boundaries with your managers. Oh my gosh, I had started this job, and the thing is, I have always been a good worker. I'm a rule follower. I am like a rule follower to the T. If someone tells me something, that is just what they say goes, and I'm not gonna question it. Like, I have always been the peacemaker in my home. Like, I'm just gonna do what my mom tells me, and I see my brothers over here arguing and whatnot. I'm not gonna do that. I mean, there's moments, obviously I'm human, but in like most situations I just follow what the rules are. In my brain that just makes sense. You tell me what to do and perfect, like that's what I do. But I have learned, honestly, through friendships that I have created in my job and seeing like even the way like managers look at people differently, and seeing how they treat and look at me when I follow every single rule to a T is very different, and the level of respect is very different, and I craved that. I was like, what the hell? I'm doing everything. I'm an amazing worker, and yet the only thing I'm rewarded with is more work. It's ridiculous. And I feel like if someone tells me to do something, that the only answer is yes. But the thing is, you have more power than you think. And I'm not saying to go off the rails, be an asshole, like, don't ever do your job. I'm just saying, I use the language like, if they tell me to do something that I would not prefer, I say, I wouldn't prefer to do that, but I could do that. And being straight-faced and just saying it straight up. And that is so much better than, yeah, I can. Like, I really don't want to, though. They're not going to take that serious. Like, they're not. They're just going to be like, okay, boop, there you go, that's your job. In my job we have different roles every day, and that's why I'm using this example, but it might be something like, I worked as a pizza delivery driver, and there's this one time my manager made me clean, I think it was the air vent. Either way, I was on a ladder. I don't like being on a ladder. I don't like heights. I don't like any of that. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. And then he's like, I don't even know, basically, this is really bad, talking about how my other employees were fat, so you expect them to get on a ladder? And it's like, what about you? What about these other managers? Like, this seems like a manager job if no one else is able to, and the person that you're talking to is uncomfortable with doing it. And I wish, like me, if I was this version of me in that moment, I would say, no, I'm not doing that. What other job would you want me to do? And I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, that was such bullshit. Like, I did not have to do that job. And just situations like that, saying no when you're uncomfortable and realizing that you have the ability to say no. And I don't know, if an employer threatens to fire you over you saying no, that's ridiculous. You know, I had that fear. I'm like, if I say no to something, I'm just gonna be fired. But that's not the reality of what I've seen in my jobs. Like, if you're clear and you're precise and you hold your manner calmly and confidently, then they're going to listen. And that's just what I've observed. And I think that too is, I used to think I had to be so confident and whatnot, and you do have to have a level of confidence, but at first my voice shook. Like, I was nervous. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to say it. It's easier to say yes and have that own annoyance within yourself. But learning that you can, I stutter when I get nervous. So learning that you can stutter, you can shake, you can be nervous while you're doing it, but still saying what you want in the most composed manner that you can is going to be beneficial, because eventually you're going to be able to articulate yourself more clearly, but you have to go through that rocky stage after years and years of saying yes and complying to every single thing. And that's just the reality, and it sucks at first, and it's uncomfortable at first, and shoot, it's still uncomfortable sometimes, you know, like, and even in your head, like, I don't want to do this, but I don't want to do that. So it's like choosing the lesser evil. It's choosing what struggle you want. Do you want to struggle with the fact that you're being pushed around and you hate your job every day, or do you want to struggle with the fact that it's uncomfortable to tell these people what to do and they might dislike you? That too, I had to be okay with being disliked. Not every single one of my managers like me. Not all of my coworkers like me. And that's fine, because also that too, I used to think I have to talk to everyone. Sometimes I'm not in the mood to talk. Sometimes I want to put my earbud in and I just want to do my job. And there was literally a situation the other day too where they kept asking me to do this one role, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I had to tell a new person that was like, here, let me show you how to do it, trying to trick me into doing something. No, I'm not doing that. I've told everyone else before, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it if someone else asks. I don't care what they put my assignment on the board. I've already told every single manager that I'm not doing this, right? But this person wasn't even a manager. That person snitched on me to a manager, and the manager came up to me, and I told the manager exactly what I've told the manager many times before, which they finally made a change, so I no longer have to do that job. Perfect, love it, thank you, should have done this months ago. But, and then I saw that person talking shit about me. Because him and the other person both turned around when I was walking. Like, it's so obvious. And I continued doing my job because that's fine. He doesn't have to like me. He has to pick up my work because I'm not doing it. And obviously, that's fine if he doesn't like me. But that means he's doing a job he didn't want to do in the first place. And that has nothing to do with me, because I'm not going to do the job I don't want to do because he doesn't want to do he's doing the job he doesn't want to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to put up my boundaries. And regardless of how these people feel around me, that's fine, because I'm not, at the end of the day, affecting them. If he felt some type of way about that job, he shouldn't have accepted that job. He should have done the same exact thing that I'm doing. But no. And he's also in a position where that is more applicable to his role than mine. So do what you're comfortable doing, and if you're uncomfortable doing something, say it. And you know, also there's a chance that that's not going to be listened to. When I say I don't prefer that job, it doesn't always mean, actually every single time I have said that recently, I haven't had that job. But I'm sure there are going to be times where I'm like, I would rather not, and they're going to be like, there's no other role, you're going to have to do this. And I'm going to have to do it. There are some days you're not going to be able to control everything, but controlling what you're able to, and at least knowing you're speaking up for yourself and doing what you can on your side, is going to make you feel like you have more control over your environment than it would if you just went along with every single thing someone else wants. So controlling what you can control. And maybe finding that peace in some part of your day, like at lunch. I have my friends that I love talking to, and this last month there's been a lot of stuff going on with them, and they haven't been there as often. So instead of me sitting at a lunch table with people that I don't know as well, but I've been sitting by them, but I would rather not talk to them, I sat by myself. I would rather have that 30 minutes to myself, be able to reconnect with myself, you know, maybe sit in silence, eat my food, like calm down, and then go back, versus having these half-assed small talk conversations. I hate small talk. And just knowing yourself. What do you like? What do you need to refresh yourself? What do you enjoy? And what do you need? And, you know, sometimes you might need the small talk because you know you're going to go home and not talk to anybody, and that's like the only time you talk to people all day. Beautiful. It's figuring out what your needs and wants are and applying them and standing up for yourself the best way you know possible. And that too, it's not going to be perfect. The best way you know possible is all that you can do. And being okay with it being rocky in the beginning. Yes, and I think finding a support system is the most beneficial thing, because honestly, I would not move the way that I move if I was not around people that move the way they move. And, you know, I don't agree with every single thing that my friends do and how they move. There's some things that I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to pick up that habit. And there's some that I'm like, oh my god, I really love how people react to X, Y, and Z. This is like such a random tidbit or something that has helped me too, is I was sick for a little bit and I was wearing a mask at work, and I just saw like how managers look at me differently, and I don't know, they're like, are you okay, Taylor? Like, you know, whatever, taking it easy on me. So you know what I did? I continued wearing that mask for a while I got back to my grounds and figuring out what I wanted in different respect, because I was realizing I was getting this different kind of sympathy. They were seeing me as a human and not someone that they could overwork because I wasn't feeling good. And I was like, when I wear this mask, it also hides my smile, because in these uncomfortable situations, I have the tendency to smile. I'm like, yeah, I would rather like not do that. I don't really do it anymore, so it's kind of hard for me to mimic it, but before that, I smile in uncomfortable situations, and the mask really helped hide that, because I look serious as hell. Like, okay, she means what she says, and it's aggravating that I'm not taken seriously when I have a smile on my face. If you guys watched my first video, I literally talked about this, but it's aggravating to not be taken seriously just because I have a smile on my face. But that is just the situation. People are going to read you differently based on how you're presenting yourself, and that is something that I had to learn, and I wish was not a factor, but it is a factor. And that is why I'm saying you have to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable for me to look at them dead in their eyes and be serious and be irritated and have the possibility of them not liking me. But more so, I kind of put a little fear in them, like, okay, if we mess with Taylor, she's gonna go home. That too, is I have a job, and this is a blessing, that if I go home, I have like time that covers that, and I'm able to use my time like that. Some jobs, I know you can't just be like, bye, and that's a completely different situation, and those jobs, you can do the best and do what you can do. But if you walk out, there's a possibility that you are fired, so I would not recommend walking out if it's a job that you need for your bills. Don't do that. But if you have a job that you're able to like, oh, put in my time and then peace out, use that to your advantage. I would say use that to your advantage, and you have the financial stability to do that. There is no reason for them to be bossing you around like that, and let them know that you have power just as much as they have power, because they need you as much as you need them. Like, it is an equal arrangement, and this power dynamic is just unfair. And honestly, it's probably not an equal arrangement, and they probably do have more power, but you know, making it more equal and knowing that you have more power will make it more equal in your mind. It will make you less resentful of going to a place that you have to go to every day. Yeah. I don't even know if this is advice or a ramble. I don't know. I still feel in a funk, you know? I'm just like, I don't know. Today has been a day, and I'm just ready for this week to be up and have my weekend and all of that. But in the meantime, sometimes you just gotta sit in the uncomfortable, sit in the sadness, sit in the discomfort, and sit in the unknown. I hate sitting in the unknown. I really do. The unknown really has nothing to do with these two things, but I'm not gonna get into that. I just need to get something. I just need to ramble a little bit, and talking about my issues at hand just didn't seem like the right thing today. So, yes, my beautiful friends, I hope you have a beautiful day, morning, night, evening, and everything is gonna be okay. And it's okay to be uncertain of your reality. There are gonna be glimpses and moments where you are certain, and I hope for all of you to have those moments. Okay. Have a good night.